Everyone. Hey, this is a message to black men, and I want to have a conversation with you. My brothers. You know, um, you know, we have a crisis on our hands right now. When you start looking at, the murder rate that's going on, inside of our communities. When you start looking at the number of our men who are incarcerated, which means that we're leaving our kids to be raised by their mothers, which is in itself, tragic. Not because they're not loving mothers, but they're getting half of what they should have because we're not there. And last but not least, we're allowing ourselves to fall victim to early death, through homicide, and not only homicide, but also drugs and alcohol. I have several friends who passed away almost 20 years ago, and I'm not that old. 20 years ago, childhood friends who are now deceased. If you look around me, I'm in the cemetery right now. That's where they're resting, in the cemetery, because of alcohol abuse and drug abuse. But I don't want to stop right there. I want to keep on talking to you. When you look at incarcerated black men, right now, the prison system in this country has 2.2 million men in prison. Approximately. Some females in that number. When you look at the world, China, for example, has a little bit over 500,000 men in prison. India has a little bit over 400,000 men in prison. Now, why do I bring up China and why do I bring up India? Because China and India both have a population over 1 billion people. The United States population is right about 320 million people. So if you did the math, that's 5% of the population. 25% of the world's prisoners are in the United States. And 50% of those prisoners happen to look like you and I. This is a crisis. This is a crisis. And if we don't step up as men of color and take responsibility for what's going on, we're going to find ourselves we're already in dire straits. But can you imagine one day where people will look back and say, they'll show a picture of a man of color and say they once existed here in the United States. Now, I know that there is a problem, with the criminal justice system, how we are in that system disproportionately. But I'm not going to talk about that today. What I'm going to talk about is how do we stay out of the criminal justice system. Okay? Yes, I know that crimes get committed by all ethnic groups, and as men of color, the likelihood of you having to go to jail and serve time in prison, I think it's 6 to 1. Matter of fact, I'm sure the statistics, 6 to 1. So you can commit the same crime as a white male, for example, and it's 6 times more likely that you're going to get a prison sentence versus that white male. Now, granted, that is about as diabolical and unfair as it could possibly be. But it is the reality. So it's no sense to get caught up in that. You follow me? If we get caught up on how they treat us, then we are not ever going to be in a position to take the first step, and that is make sure we don't put ourselves in positions to be taken advantage of like that. And when we succumb to environments that are very inducive to drugs and alcohol, abandonment, violence, you know what I'm saying? Then we are going to get treated totally different in the criminal justice system. And again, you think about it from this perspective. If you have kids, you're a father. What's going to happen to your child when you're not there to give that child the love it needs, the comfort that it needs, the safety that it needs, which is a part of the comfort, and the direction, the training that it needs? to be able to stay out of the criminal justice system. You know, right now, again, and I don't mean to be throwing numbers at you, but these are facts. It is predicted now that 1 out of every 3 black males will serve some time in the penitentiary during their lifespan. 1 out of 3. So if you're in a room right now with 4 people, 1 of y'all are going to jail. If you go to the hospital and you saw 10 infants in there, then looking at that number, 3 or 4 of those 10 babies you're looking at, if they're male babies, will be incarcerated at some point of their life. Guys, that is a crisis. That is a major crisis. So you say, okay, well, I hear what you're saying. You're giving up me these numbers, you know, Dale, but what are your solutions? Well, the first thing we have to do is go back and do some reflection and find out other means to keep ourselves from falling victim to the criminal justice system. How do we do that? We get involved in our communities. We talk to our sons and daughters. We work better. We build better relationship with the mothers of our sons and daughters. We learn the law. We learn the lay of the land. We invest in the community. We invest in trade inside of the community. We invest in entrepreneurship inside of the community. Now, when you say trade and entrepreneurship, trade means, you know, I'm selling something, you're selling something, we do business with each other. Okay? And that's not to exclude the broader society, but you cannot go in an Asian community and not find Asians patronizing those communities. Okay? I have some friends who are East Indian. And I was talking with one of them just recently. And they were talking about when they go out and do their shopping. And they were talking about, you know, the different, you know, East Indian, you know, markets that they go and shop in. And it was very, you know, eye-opening to me. Not a revelation, but it just kind of reminded me, again, just how those communities strive here in America. Because they know, first and foremost, it's self-preservation. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. In other words, you know, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Self-preservation is first. You need to be doing business with people who look like you. Not because you hate someone else or because you're biased or prejudiced. That has nothing to do with it. Italians don't shop in Italian restaurants or eat in Italian restaurants because they hate the Irish. They eat in Italian restaurants because they want to support Italian business. They know that's good for the community. It creates jobs for the community. It creates, you know, entrepreneur opportunities for the community. And plus, it sets a good standard for other young Italians to be able to go and see professional adult Italians doing business. And least of all, they know they're always going to be welcome there. So when I'm talking about, you know, black on black business, that's what I mean by that. We have to not only be willing to trade with one another, but we also, the second aspect of it is find trades, find things that our community needs. Do we need electricians? Yes. Do we need plumbers? Yes. Do we need contractors? Yes. Do we need loan officers? Yes. Do we need bankers? Yes. Hairdressers? Yes. Barbers? Yes. Taxi drivers? Yes. You name it, we need it. So, and there's no reason, when we're doing it in other communities, we work outside of our communities doing all kind of great and wonderful things. Teachers, educators, counselors, you know what I'm saying? Physicists, health gurus, you know, individuals helping you to take care of your bodies, you know what I'm saying? Fitness, you know, experts. All of those are fields and occupations. If we talk about it, we start early, we start late, we pull it together. And that's how you build inside of the community. That's how you give other alternatives inside of the community to stay out of the criminal justice system, to stay gainfully employed, how to be your own boss. Because I will tell you this, when it comes down to corporate America, no disrespect, but corporate America is hostile to men and women of color. They see you as the last to hire, first to fire. It's just a reality. If anybody getting offended, tough luck. You know, suck it up, take it like a man. You know it's the truth anyway, whether you agree with it or like it or not. So if you know you're the first fired, last hired, first fired, why are you constantly preparing to go into a hostile environment? Create your own is what I'm saying. And you can do this. We can do this. But we have to be honest with one another. We have to be transparent with one another. We have to tell the brutal truth. Yeshua said, you should know the truth and the truth shall set you free. We have to stop tiptoeing around these issues. But we also have to learn how to have more compassion towards one another, more understanding towards one another, more tolerance towards one another. Here's the last thing I'll say in regards to how we do business. Gideon Flight, my board of directors, we have entrepreneurs on my board of directors. 7 men when we first began. Do you know of those 7 men, 2 of those men did business with other men on the board, and we had integrity issues. These men did not keep their words to other men or created uncomfortable situations to those men. And that was just 7 of us. We can't have that. And I'm being transparent about this. I love my Gideon Flight brothers. And we talked about this. We had some serious, we're no longer 7 anymore. Let's say it that way. So we can't say let's do business and then not be fair and equitable in that business. Okay, you got to do business. You got to do it the right way. You say, what is the right way? Again, you do business as though you were doing business with yourself. Okay? What's your standard? If you were going out and getting the best you could have for yourself, what would you go out and get? If you could have anything you wanted, the best of, what would that be? I suspect whatever that is, and you had accessibility to it, you would get it. Well, that's the same mindset you have to have when you're doing business with others inside of your community. You got to give them a great product, a quality product, and a product that you're willing to stand behind with your name, your reputation. So our children can see this. So our women can also see it. I'm talking about women of color. I'm not talking about your girlfriend or your wife. I'm talking about our women of color can see you taking that initiative, being assertive, taking, pride in your community, into your families. And I can assure you, if there's anything that can mend that gap between the black men, or so-called black men and black women, that first step is she going to be able to see, okay, he's out there doing the right things. He's going to be there. I can count on him. And at the end of the day, you follow me? If I invest in him, I know that I'm going to get a great return on my investment. Guys, I guarantee you, if you can send that message and our women of color, see that, they'll change, if you want to say their attitudes, they'll change it. But our women are no different than any other women. If you can't protect them and they can't count on you, don't expect to be able to count on them. Don't expect any loyalty from them. Would you be loyal, men, to a woman that you couldn't count on? Who's going to, if your girlfriend's going to cheat on you, and would you be loyal to her? Hell no, you wouldn't. All right? So if you want to bring her back, if you want her to have confidence and see you as the ultimate man, in other words, when I say the ultimate male, I want her to see you as the most admired man, then you got to raise the bar. And you got to start with yourself. And you don't have a lot of time to do this. You see where I am again? All right? This is a cemetery. You're going to get here one day. And I'm telling you, when you get here, it's done. It's finished. And I know some of you guys, you get the impression with this homicide rate, 50% of our black men and women, that's what they're dying from. So with that kind of mindset, you're going to get here a lot sooner than you should be here. But for those of you who cherish life, you know what I'm saying, who understand the beauty of life, you need to get here years and years. You need to die of an old, ripe age, okay? This is not the place for you right now, all right? But what you do between the beginning of your life to this part of your life, you follow me? That's what people are going to remember you the most about. That's what your community is going to remember the most about you. And as black men, I plead to you, it's time to step up. It's time to change these statistics. It's not white America's responsibility to fix your problems. That is your responsibility. Because if you want their respect, you're going to have to earn their respect. Because they obviously not going to give it to you, by default. All right? And right now, we're at a crisis state. We can't no longer wait. We can't wait for the police to figure out that we shouldn't be shot down like animals. We need to put ourselves in a position where we can't get shot down like animals. And we need to have a community that if something does happen, they're going to have to answer for it. From all of us. Thank you for listening. DFG, peace, brothers. More to come, by the way. Please subscribe. Thank you.